Dr. Rapaport, good morning.
John, it is an exceptionally beautiful day and warmer.
So, gotta get the fireplace back there. Where's the fireplace? There's the fireplace. Oh, much better. We were kind of toying around with words and vernacular and ideology and that sort of thing as it relates to topical steroid addiction. And we continue to struggle with, I guess, that magic bullet that wakes people up. And the word that came up was, or the phrase that came up was detoxification. Is the body detoxifying from the chronic use of topical steroids? Is that an applicable descriptor to raise awareness?
Well, no, physiologically. Yes, psychologically. I think. I think they're thinking, the patients, of that they're going through hell. This is mystifyingly unknown to a lot of doctors. They're getting no help anywhere. They've gotten all kinds of recommendations about diets and foods and gut problems and whatever. So I'm in a mess. I'm toxic. And as we talked, you and I, maybe we need catchwords like that in order to grab the attention. Well, we have the attention of the patients mostly, except the new ones who keep writing to me that I just read about you and read and saw your film, et cetera, et cetera. I had mentioned to you whether it's important to the populace who is watching this, that 93,000 people have viewed the movie Skin on Fire. And we have 970 subscribers to the YouTube. It means people watch. But who are we trying to get to? Trying to get to the FDA, to the drug companies, to the MDs who are writing prescriptions, to the MDs who are demeaning these poor patients who are having problems.
Well, and I think that's why we're fighting, or that's why you're really fighting on multiple fronts. You're publishing, you've got the YouTube videos, you're seeing individual patients, you're interacting with professional groups and all that sort of thing. But I guess I want to get to this notion of the flakiness and the oozing of exudate and all that sort of thing. Is it a reasonable way to describe it is that you're cleansing the body? I mean, I know logically that's not happening, that the vascular system is pumping out an inordinate amount of nitric oxide, but from a branding standpoint, you got to get this out of your system. The ooze, the flakiness, it's all restorative suffering in the form of a finger quote detox.
No, your point is very well taken. It's just that we capitalize on the words and give them a different definition.
Yes.
But forever, for thousands of years, you sweated it out.
Yeah.
You went into the sauna or you went into the hot tub to get all the bad vibes and chemicals out of your system. You ran the marathon and you sweated all the poisons out of you, et cetera, et cetera. These are all psychological, not physiological, but truly believed by a vast majority of patients that they're doing some huge benefit to themselves, getting rid of things. Well, I'm sorry not to be, I'll think of a word, but your proposition is acceptable and amenable to discrete discussion. How about cleansing the bowel with high colonics?
Exactly.
But that's a different area, and that's been done for centuries.
Well, and again, it's ideological branding and marketing. It's when someone is obviously a mess, as we see, does it psychologically help them to think that their body is ridding itself of this poison? Now, obviously, we know chemically that's not what's happening, but does it provide a little mental life preserver?
Well, I would like to twist it even one more quarter turn, like in the gym machine, and gets the doctors to think that they're detoxing patients.
Right.
That would be more appropriate. The patients probably already know they're toxic or they're sickly, and they're looking for help. The doctors say, "Oh, all you need is a little more steroid." No, I think you're toxic. We have to detox you.
See this,
That might work.
and see those ideological, I guess, paths start here with you. I mean, I don't mean to overstate your influence, but it's true. You're laying the groundwork for a path forward on how we raise awareness to this whole thing.
I'm sure if I sat down and reread my text, my literature, and thought about it, I would come up with 10 examples in the history of medicine where a radical change took a long time to get accepted. In fact, fought over. In fact, demeaned. In fact, vilified the sponsor. In fact, some of the sponsors committed suicide in medicine. One of them was Semmelweis, Austrian obstetrician, was in obstetrics in the biggest lying-in hospital in Austria in the 1830s. They were dying like crazy. The medical ward where the doctors delivered had a death rate of 50 to 70%. Because they did autopsies on the dead women in the morning and then delivered in the afternoon. The midwife section only had a 12-15% death rate. They didn't do autopsies. They didn't have dirty hands. So Semmelweis came up with cleansing the hands with phenol and et cetera, et cetera. And the germ theory had not come in with Pasteur until decades later. So it was black magic. And obviously, what's the easiest answer? It's the woman's fault.
Right.
Woman's fault. Not walking properly, not resting. The baby's turned around. Such garbage talk. Always blaming the woman for everything.
Well, we talk about these evolutionary changes in thinking, and it wasn't that long ago that we were told to eat 6 servings of bread a day. 6.
Yeah. Well, the farmers have been eating eggs for about 5,000 years. That's what they had. They had chickens on the farm all across the world. And suddenly it was evil in the 70s and 80s or 90s. And then suddenly it was okay again. The yolks were good, filled with vitamin D and other good chemicals, except those who still remembered how evil eggs were when they were growing up, so they're not going to go near them. And they don't believe. And it's a game. It's a game. It's a game. It's sad.
One of the facets, I think, of your intellectual honesty is talking about almost as much about what you don't know versus what you do know. And the example is why the body, and specifically why the vascular system during cessation of steroids starts dumping nitric oxide.
Well, no, we do know a mechanism. Nitric oxide keeps the blood vessels open and brings blood to the brain.
Right.
During crises like collapsing, accidents, going into comas, the nitric oxide level is high. Why does the prednisone stimulate that to happen in the skin vessels? I can understand after an auto accident, and we'll check the nitric oxide and it's elevated. Why with prednisone? Well, prednisone, cortisones, adrenaline, adrenal glands, they're all involved with fright and fight and killing the enemy and worrying and surviving. Somehow it's mixed up and the body figures it out that let's pump out this hormone or this hormone and these two, and we will allow that. our body to survive.
But why does it go crazy with the cessation of topical corticosteroids? What is that mechanism that fires that says we got to dump it for 3 to 5 years?
I repeatedly, this is not a game for me. And when I say in kindness, I have a lot of fun in taking care of these patients because I know I'm going to cure them. But the angst that goes on for 3 to 5 years and the worry is tremendous on them. And I tend to worry. That's my nature. But why? And I keep saying over and over, why so long? What is that mechanism? Why? And it is what it is. So we have the data, we have the fact, and then we have to come up, or we try to come up with an answer, and often our answers are wrong.
Yeah, but I don't see that it's a big enough question that's going to get the attention of the big pharma companies to go chase it down. That's the sadness.
Well, if indeed coma and death is a big enough problem that they would like to solve and help.
No, but topical steroid addiction, that doesn't move the needle, does it? I mean, do you think it?
Well, I'll mini correct you. Somewhere, editorial yesterday, today, somewhere. Pfizer, one of them. All of their money, all of their research money is going to be directed towards the heart from now on. They're smelling profit. They're smelling that everybody's living longer, that the heart becomes a problem. Well, mixed in with the heart is blood pressure, is blood flow, is brain getting enough blood, is dementia, etc. So maybe indeed our baby will come to the fore somehow and will be delved into more appropriately.
Well, as to the cause of that, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'll leave it what you said because, yeah. But these therapies that they are developing, what I find fascinating that they all have in common is you have to be on them for the rest of your life. It's the ultimate annuity.
The ultimate annuity, sure. And hey, around the board meeting, around the big table in the factory in Jersey or wherever the factory is, a lot of people living to be 90 and 100. We have an annuity for years, for decades.
I've become so cynical. It's like they don't want you dead, but they don't want you alive either. You're in this twilight zone of, pharmaceutical sustenance, and it's not good.
Well,
I hate to be a downer.
I had something came up recently, and it brought to the fore of a comment that I often have made in my career, that doctors overuse lab tests, cost money. Medicare is paying, insurance companies are paying, they're all pulling their horns in a little bit. And you order a lab test, Mr. Doctor, when you're going to change the therapy or look for another diagnosis. If you know what the diagnosis is and you know what the therapy is, why another x-ray? Why another blood test? Et cetera, et cetera. But there's something about reading that blood test in the computer that has taken over the mind of the physician. And that's what he likes to do now. Patients back here waiting in anticipation for the premise of what's going on and the drug to use. And he's busy on the computer pumping up the system so that he'll get paid for spending time and caring and seeing what lab tests showed last time and what new lab tests can I order now.
Well, you've also distributed and abrogated liability, right?
Say that again.
You've distributed and abrogated liability. You've checked a series of boxes that would rule out other things so that nobody comes back and says, You know, you
Well,
missed lymphoma, you dummy.
I think the apologists for the doctors talk about malpractice. I think it's a very overstated thing. Yes, there are docs who get sued. Yes, we see the list. Yes, 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 but a little overstated. And when the doctor's goose step response, when you question of the lab test or question this, every kid who falls who's brought to the ER gets an X-ray of the head for fear of bleeding. There are appropriate things that are done, but there are many inappropriate things.
Well, but I think the big medical groups say, hey, we're going to get paid for these excessive tests.
Get paid.
We're going to limit our liability. Insurance company pays for it. It's not a hardship to the customer. Let's roll.
Not only got paid, I just put in $10 million in an X-ray machine in my hospital. I want that used.
Oh my God. Well, we got off the track from coining the term detox.
Detox.
We'll revisit it. I did want to make a comment about your telemedicine services that are available, the emails included in the description. To anybody that is contacting Dr. Rapaport, we would very strongly encourage them to look at 5 or 6 or 7 of these videos before you start an engagement, just so that you're not, I don't want to use the term wasting time, but there's so much that's out there in the public domain now, so that when they approach you, you can get to the meat of the matter without having to provide all this context. Because it's not going to be anything different than you tell them one-on-one on the phone versus what we're talking about now.
Well, there is something we've alluded to and commented on in the past. It's absolutely critical for 90.9% of patients to tell their story, to tell you of their woe, to tell you of how much they've suffered. Of course, they want to get better, but first, I have to tell you what I've gone through. Let me start last May. Let me start 10 years ago. They must relate that to whoever will listen. Well, the relatives are tired of it. The doctor is being paid, so he'll listen. Oh, I can type it on my computer and Rapaport will read it. A 6-page, script of how I suffered for 10 years. But that's human nature. That's what they want, to be heard. And it might be sufficient. That might help in terms of a little bit of therapy, a little bit of patting on the back, a little bit of helping me get through the day by somebody reading my woe.
Absolutely. And I think it also establishes a very personal relationship between you and the patient.
Yeah.
But what I would encourage sufferers of topical steroid addiction to do is understand the nuts and the bolts and the mechanics prior to reaching out to you, so that you're not, using consulting hours to
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you, basically.
Okay, and then one more additive to that is I have run into a host of patients through the years who are telling me, I solved this problem myself. I figured it out. I've been suffering, but I've been suffering.
Well, then why are you talking to you?
But they have to tell somebody.
Okay,
that
great.
They were successful.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, your malpractice insurance will go down because you're not. All right, let's leave it there. Detox from topical steroid addiction. That's the flag we're waving today.
Okay, and every doctor should know they're helping in the crisis in America of toxation and your ability to detox patients.
Love it. All right, good. Thank you.